Warning. This podcast contains explicit sexual language and should only be listened to at work if you're looking for an excuse to connect with your HR representative. Additionally, all mentions of the word women include cis and trans women. If you are genderqueer, gender fluid, figuring it out, anything in between, and feel like this conversation is also important for you, you are welcome here.
Will you open up with me? These pages, they can feed your innermost desires. Do you feel inspired? Are you getting what you need? Are you coming curiously? A secret safe with me. And here you can simply be yourself. Jayci Lee romance. Come on in, come on in, come on.
Hi, y'all. This is Jace, and you found a book club episode of Jace Reads Romance. Fair warning, we will spoil everything. So if you are someone who doesn't like to have a book spoiled for them, press pause and come back to this episode at a later date. Hopefully you like the book just as much as we did. So far, we haven't read any books that we didn't like, so we've got a pretty good track record. Enjoy. Hi, y'all. This is Jace, she, they, and you've found Jace Reads Romance, a community dedicated to empowering women about sex and sexuality through the reading of romance novels. And read them we do. And read them we do. And I also volunteer people to read books with me because I want to talk about them with you. And that is exactly what I did for y'all today. Would you like to introduce yourself, my wonderful guest, so that our lovely listeners can see the hostage situation I've created for you?
Of course. So hello, my name is Caitlin, she, her. Jace is my friend. We met at a book event, go figure. But yeah, she ended up with 2 copies of this book, and I said I'd take one off her hands, and she said, "That's great. I'll give it to you, but you have to be on the podcast." So here I am.
Yeah. So if
It is signed too.
I know. You might be wondering why I did that. It's because my copy is prettier. I had a copy of this. So this is the book That Prince Is Mine by Jayci Lee, book club episode. And I met Jayci at an event that we both went to. So it's very funny. Caitlin and I met at a single author event, and I stood behind her in line and probably very rudely just butted into your conversation.
You're always welcome.
Thank you. Now I am, because I know you, but I was like random person number 5. And Caitlin and another friend of ours got to talking through the book event and then on the sidewalk after the book event. And then it turns out that Caitlin and I were going to multiple book events for the rest of the year. So Caitlin and I ended up going to 2 of the same conferences as well. So we're like pseudo travel buddies. When we were at Steamy Lit, I found Jayci Lee, and I hadn't read anything by her yet. And I'd actually gone to find 9 Tales, which is a PNR book of hers. And when I was at her table getting that book and chit-chatting, I saw these beautiful sprayed edges. And I went, I don't even need to know what that book is. It says That Prince Is Mine, and it's pink, and I want it. And so I bought it, and it's signed, and I have some like adorable art from it, which is just really cute. And then put it on my shelf and kept meaning to read it. And this is honestly why I don't do blind dates with a book, because if I'm reading a description and I like the description, I probably already have the book. Or if I didn't want the book, I probably didn't want the book. And I did a very bad job of never reading the back of this. And bought a blind date with a book, opened it up, and went, fuck, I have this book. And like, what a beautiful autographed copy. Was telling this to Caitlin, and she said, oh, do that. Give me this book. I love an autograph book. And I was like, well, how do I actually, maybe if I get her to read this book, I'll read this book faster. And I'm very happy that we did.
Yeah,
Right?
very effective plan that you had. It worked. Here we are.
Very effective volunteering. I'm like, hey, can I screw up your entire January TBR? Great. Whatever you were
Never.
planning to do at the end of January, you don't get to anymore.
Well, as you know, I am notorious for buying books and then they just, I just collect them. And then I'm like, oh, I should read what I have, but instead I buy something new. So this is great. This
Yeah,
is very effective. So I
I'm
appreciate you.
glad. Good. I've found that telling people I'm going to read books is becoming a very good way for me to actually read books
Sure.
faster than I would have. It's how I did the new Camelot trilogy, which I was gonna hold off for a while there. I was gonna save myself that emotional agony, and I didn't. But this is not emotional agony. Like if you said, "Ooh, Jace, I don't know if I can handle a new Camelot," like the books you seem to read are a little bit heavy for me. I think this is going to be a good one. Would you like to tell everyone like the gist of what this book is about?
Okay. Ooh, put me on the spot. Okay, so, and I just read it, so I should be able to tell you what it's about. Okay. So anyway, Emma Yoon is a Korean American woman who wants to start a culinary school to teach just other, young people how to cook. This like what is it? Is it Korean royal cuisine, I think
Yeah,
is
it's a
is what it
real
is.
fancy.
Yeah. And then meanwhile, she has an aunt who is like a matchmaker. Her godmother, I think,
Mm-hmm.
is a matchmaker. And so I guess there's some competition in the matchmaking business. And there's this problem because she has this like goddaughter who's not married and she's 28. Like, God forbid she is becoming a spinster. And so as a result, she tells her godmother she could set her up. And so she starts going on these dates. And meanwhile, she goes to this cafe and she meets Michelle, who she does not know, but he is like a secret prince, which I love. And so they like meet and it's like insta love. And then it's kind of about like, well, we can't be together because you're a prince. And also he's like visiting from his country. Anyway, that was a very poor description of the book, but there's a lot going on. There's a lot going on in this book.
There is a lot going on. Also, even though it clearly does say Michelle, I've read it as Michael in my
Oh,
brain the entire book until you said
100%.
it.
Well,
Literally until you said that.
it's because I listened to the audio. That's the only
Oh
reason
my
why I know. Because
gosh.
I like would read it and then I'd like take a
Hmm.
break and listen to it. And I very much was like, Michael, Michael, Michael. But then I was like, no, Caitlin, it is Michelle.
Because they're French. They're a French speaking
Exactly.
country.
Yeah,
Oh, no, it's totally correct. I was like, that's just a weird way to spell Michael. Whatever. No, it
I
is
agree.
Michelle. I thought that this book was really, it had a lot of those like yummy contemporary romance tropes. Like number one, Secret Prince. Just
Done.
done. I love a secret prince in especially because I feel like where I see it most is in Hallmark movies. I'm like, no, can we leave the Christmas season behind? So I love it in a rom-com book because we get it in like a variety of places. And he falls so hard so fast.
Yes.
He's just enamored of her. And Michelle is there to find love. He has an arranged marriage back
Right.
at home. He's kind of gotten 3 months to guest lecture at his cousin's university. I think it's USC. And his cousin
Yes,
is a
I think
professor
so.
there. And he's like, I'm going to guest lecture there for 3 months. And really, he's like, I'm going to find love in 3 months. So I don't have to go back to my friend, like my friend from childhood who I've been
Right.
engaged to and I don't want to marry. And so he is like he is hardcore looking for love. And she is sworn off love. I will never fall in love. And I want an
Right.
arranged marriage. I want someone who's perfect on paper, whatever. And the amount of lying that these two do to themselves is so entertaining. She's like, no, I'll just go on this one date to get it out of my system. No, the more time I spend with him, the more I'll realize how wrong we are for each other. No, it's just 2 months. He's only here for 2 more months, and then he'll be gone, and it will be fine, and I'll find like
In denial. That is for sure.
for sure. And he is so awkward in the best way. Like, he's so terrible at dating. And what I liked about how terrible at dating he is that we also got to see him be incredibly competent as a prince. And I feel like often if a character is terrible at dating, they're a bit of a buffoon in so many other ways. And so we don't necessarily they're dorky, they're awkward, they're weird at their job, they fall down, they're klutzy or whatever it is. And the fact that we have Michel, who is this incredibly competent political figure, and we see him really engage in the politics of his country and also be an incredible guest lecturer at the college and be well respected in that, just be so terrible. I'm gonna go to the, like, he asks her out, but chapter 8 starts with his cousin Gabriel, who is a full-time tenured professor at USC, who I'm only sad that Gabriel and Sophie don't get their own book. Let's just sidebar that. Like,
No, I
I thought
was
they were gonna get their
wondering.
own book.
Same. That was the first
No.
note I took. I was like, and it, by the way, it's Gabrielle, by the
Oh
way.
God, of course it is.
But yeah, Sophie and Gabrielle, I was like, they have to have a book, right? And then obviously their story kind of concluded
Yeah,
in this book. So I
I
was kind
know.
of sad about that, but okay, fine.
But like chapter 8, I'm sure you're also dying because I destroy my books and your books are precious. Because I have writing and annotations and bent spines galore. My God, Gabrielle muttered, "You really are awful at this." I know, Michelle groaned. He dropped his head back on the sofa and threw his forearm over his eyes. How can you not get her number? His cousin sounded as frustrated as Michelle felt. So basically, he had asked her out. She agreed to go on a date with him, and he got so flustered that he vamoosed without getting her last name or her phone number,
That was
and
hilarious.
without giving her his last name or phone number.
Yeah, he just bolted.
He
I
just,
forgot about that. So
it was so funny. And their text exchange once they do get together is like just really terrible as well. Like, it just atrocious. And
exactly.
the one thing is they do a terrible job of expressing themselves to each other. Like, they don't express their wants and needs well. Like, and even throughout the whole thing, yes, of course, there's the whole secret prince, but even when she's testing out her sentences. She part of the thing of this part of her story is that she wants to move from teaching one-on-one lessons in
Hmm.
her kitchen to getting a real commercial kitchen where she could do classes. And she finds this space and does this test class. And she calls Michelle and she goes, "Oh, I'm so excited. I found this space." Or she's texting him. She's like, "Oh, cool. Wow, that wasn't very supportive." And he's like, "What do I say when she ruins all of my dreams?" Like, they're just so at odds with how they're expressing what they actually want and need from the other.
Hmm.
Okay,
Yeah.
so question: how did this story follow the path you expected, and where did it surprise you and maybe veer away from the more predictable pattern?
I mean, I think that's a good question. I think what I guess maybe surprised me, kind of what we already spoke about, like the whole Gabrielle, Sophie, like storyline, just because
Yeah.
I was like, it was like right there at the beginning. And I was like, oh, I see what she's doing. She's going to set up this whole story for their own book. And then she just like, psych, I'm going to get it all done in this book. So that was surprising to me. Cause yeah, I got hooked real fast on that. I was like, my antenna is up and I know what's happening here.
I love a deep, like loathe to love second chance romance where you can cut
Yes.
the sexual tension with a knife.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, I guess what I mean, I kind of felt like the whole obviously, clearly she's going to find out he's a secret prince,
Hmm.
which wasn't as big of a moment as I feel like it would typically be. I think because he kind of had his first thing like, oh, by the way, I have a bodyguard. And
Yeah.
then, oh, but it's not because of any particular reason. It's just because like I'm from an influential family and that is what it is. But then like later on, he was like, oh, by the way, I'm a prince. And so it was very like anticlimactic, I guess. She was just like, okay,
Yeah.
cool.
I think part of her reaction was, I mean, what does it matter if you're leaving in 2 months?
Exactly. Yeah.
And I get that, but
Mhm.
also like, dude, you're a motherfucking prince. Like, what?
It was just very kind of like casual. And I think, yeah, because maybe to your point, like there was a time limit on it.
Yeah.
Although only a time limit from Emma's perspective.
No.
Michelle was like all in, like, move with me, after
He
2 months of
brought
knowing each
his
other.
mother's engagement ring with him to America because he was
Yes,
like, I'm gonna find love. And
exactly.
I one of the things that kept entertaining me was how many times he was thwarted in his wooing, both with the I need to confess. Oh, wait. This was something that annoyed the fuck out of me where he was like, I'm gonna tell her before we make
Oh,
love for the first time. And
yes,
then he was like, whoops, I'm too attracted to her. I can't help it. We have to have sex right now. And just let that go. And then
right.
he was
Yes,
overcome with his emotion. And he's like, I can't sleep. I must tell you now. Because I think that's also probably why it wasn't such a big deal. In her mind, she's like, we've just had sex. And I wake up and you are sitting in a chair staring at me,
fully
fully
clothed.
clothed, fully clothed, because he has such guilt about not sharing this with her that he's like, I can't even enjoy this postcoital bliss. I have to tell her as soon as she wakes up.
Yes,
But she actually does have a pretty big reaction. She runs into the bathroom and is like, hey, oh no, does she
that was when he.
proposed? Is that
Yes.
the proposal? Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a
I mean,
terrible reaction.
obviously we're talking about the book. Like, who cares about spoilers if you're listening to this, right? You should be ready to be spoiled, right?
Oh, everyone
Okay.
knows. Everyone knows that things are about to be spoiled.
I figured, but just making
Oh,
sure.
we did. So we jumped ahead to the proposal, which I think, like Sophie, that's a terrible way to handle things. That was just not.
Yeah,
I
and then
will say a surprise for me. I thought that her godbrother was gonna was gonna go a different way than it did.
okay.
When godbrother shows up and gets so protective when they go to Korean barbecue together,
Yep.
I thought he was going to be like, no, we're perfect. We're like, I thought it was going to go that way. And I was very surprised by the turn when it turns out so her godmother, the matchmaker, has an older son, is one son who was unmarried. And one of my first highlighted things that I liked was ugh, fuck, when they're talking about how, oh, the business rivals are like, oh, your goddaughter is unmarried. You must be a terrible matchmaker. She goes, what about your son who's older than I am and unmarried? And she went, he's a man. And she goes, ugh, just ugh, fuck patriarchy. Like, yes, that's the first thing I highlighted with a yay. So he shows up kind of out of the blue and goes out to dinner with Emma and Michelle and is so possessive over Emma, putting his arm around her, talking about how long they've known each other. And I'm thinking to myself, oh my gosh, he just finished med school. He's about to open his own practice. He's going to make a move. He's going to be the person that she thinks that is going to like try and come between them. And it turns out, no, he's gay and engaged.
Yes. Well, also, like, I was trying to remember because it's her godmother, but it's her
Mhm.
also her aunt, right? So this is her like first cousin,
I
is it not?
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure
Because I
it's
know she
like,
calls her Auntie Sue,
right.
but I don't know if the
Yeah, I thought they were siblings, but I could be misremembering.
or cousins. I don't know. Because I know like Auntie is
Sure.
her godmother's voice.
Anyway, but that was my assumption. Like I assumed that they were actually related, so that's why my brain didn't go there. But I was thinking,
Oh,
like his reaction when he first meets Michelle. I agree. I
yeah,
was like, he's acting like very like protective, very
right.
possessive, and I was like, this is a weird vibe. But I think my brain didn't go where your brain went because I just assumed that they were related.
I didn't assume that. Like, because even though she calls her auntie, she's
Right.
only referred to as godmother. And
Yep.
so I think it's like when I read books from Indian culture where they call everyone auntie or uncle, even though they're not
Sure.
related. That's a
Yeah.
sign of respect for me. But it doesn't really matter if they are actually, and even here it says thanks to her godmother rather than an aunt.
Hmm.
But it doesn't really matter because it didn't go there. Like,
That's true.
it didn't go there. Can we just like have a moment to talk about Sophie and Gabrielle? Because like you, I thought she was going to set up another book. And part of me is disappointed that they don't get a whole book to themselves, but part of me really liked the parallel of the story with Michelle and Emma.
Hmm.
So I made you tell the whole plot. Do you want me to tell this this one?
Sure. I mean, you do a much better job than I, so take it away.
We both talk about books enough that we're both really good at it. So Gabrielle is Michelle's first cousin, and he was considered like a playboy, paparazzi fiend, bad boys, different woman every night in their home country, even though it wasn't necessarily true. He was just kind of paparazzi fodder because he's the son of a secondary princess and really good looking. Everybody talks about how beautiful he is. Apparently, he's the most beautiful person on the planet. And if you want to know, beautiful people can also be boring. He is a philosophy professor at USC whose nickname is the Sphinx because he's such a tight-mouthed asshole. Like he's just but he is, which is very funny
Yes.
because we get like fun, exciting, like joking Gabriel, who is very good friends and very close with Michelle. And Michelle's main bodyguard is this woman named Sophie. Also love that she's a woman. She's super badass. And it turns out that not only have they all known each other since they were little, but Gabriel and Sophie dated. And Gabriel is like hardcore in love with Sophie and left her behind when he moved to America. And he moved to America, against his mother's wishes and all this stuff. So there's a lot of drama. But the tension between them is so fraught because he pines for her so bad and she's so hurt that he just left her behind. And the moral of that story is when Michelle is wondering how can he ask Emma to give up everything and move with him and do all these things, and he wants her to be happy and he doesn't know if he can. Gabriel is the don't do what I did, which is leave her behind. Do everything in your power to keep her and fight for her, or you will regret it. And Sophie is the, if he'd asked me to go, I would have. Don't assume you know what she wants. And so for Michelle's personal journey, I think it was really important to have those two characters around him and to have him watch as almost a cautionary tale of what is
Right.
it like both when you give up love, but you can't make assumptions and assume you know what the other person, no matter how much you think you're doing the right thing, the ultimate right thing is to let your partner make the decision for themselves.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think like that's a really good point because I feel like those storylines and like were so like ingrained, I guess, or like in parallel with each other because like Michelle like did what he did because like what happened between his two childhood friends like informed how he approached the situation with Emma. So,
Yeah.
it's a good point. Like I feel like as much as I wanted to know all the dirty details between
Mm-hmm.
them, I think the story would have been obviously very different if we didn't get that perspective.
It would have. And I think what Emma learns both from Sophie and kind of watching the back and forth between the two, because Emma becomes good friends with Sophie
Right.
and originally says to her, like, you shouldn't be with Gabriel because you're going back to Roulem and he is staying here and the distance is too much. And ultimately the conversation is, well, you're making an assumption about what I want and what he wants, and you have this dream for yourself and you have these expectations of what you think you wanted, this man on paper who's perfect, who matches up with you in every way, and but when you fight against the thing that's real, what you end up fighting against is yourself.
Yeah. And the other thing I was just going to add to that is I know we talked about Emma basically just being kind of very much like, I want an arranged marriage, like, who needs
Mm-hmm.
love? But like that opinion and viewpoint was informed by her parents' relationship. And
Mm-hmm.
so, like, from her viewpoint, her parents fell in love, they got married, but they had like nothing else in common. So when they like stopped loving
Mm-hmm.
each other, there was nothing there to sustain the
Yeah.
relationship. And so that I think was really what was like driving Emma to just
Yeah.
be like, I don't need this because like you have to have like commonalities. You can't be too different. And so that was really kind of what was like driving her forward. So I just figured I would add that too.
Yeah. And the conversation she has with her dad at the end of this story, when she
Right.
shares this fear with him, and he says, "Oh, that's what we told you when you were a child, but
Right.
that's not what it is." And it just reminds me that things that you know about your parents, or that you know about the world, or that you know about whatever, as a kid, you're getting the kid version, the kid understanding of it. And it even to be frankly, I don't have those kinds of hangups from childhood divorce trauma. I don't have that. I'm very lucky with that. But that there are things that conversations you have with your parents, or things that you think you know, and they're because you talked about it when you were a kid. But
Mm-hmm.
it's a good idea to have those conversations again as an adult, so that you have an adult understanding of what's going on. Like like you you learn more about history and science the older you are, and the bigger understanding of the world that you have. You can't go right to, college level paleontology in kindergarten. You're like, this is a rock when you're in kindergarten. Isn't it cool? Like, that's as far as you get there, and then you can build. Holding on to those things that we believed as children, especially when it comes to adult relationships around us, we're remembering them through a child's eyes, even though
Right.
ourselves are an adult. And that was a very big learning moment for both Emma and for her dad.
Mm-hmm. I'm just gonna say this is like unrelated, but what I found really funny, because I mean we haven't talked about kind of the ending of the book yet, but I just love that like okay, I guess we just talk about it, or do
Yes,
you want to?
that's
Okay,
actually what I was
so
thinking about. I was like, the ending.
so okay, so as you can imagine, what happens? Michelle proposes to Emma. It's an absolute train wreck. This is when she
Disaster.
runs into the bathroom.
This is, and
And she's
she's
like,
like, can Sophie come in? It's like,
yes, she's like, I don't want to talk
what?
to you, Michelle. Get me my friend Sophie to like talk to me. See, I don't know that whole like her whole
No,
reaction. It was
no.
just, it was weird. I just felt like it was super
This
weird.
is where I confess that I don't know if this book stuck the landing, you know?
Yeah,
So the proposal was rushed. It was a real awkward moment. She's like, hey, Sophie needs to come in. Also, I'm just gonna go.
right.
This
Like
dude
she
has
didn't say
proposed to
anything to
you.
him.
And she's like, okay, thanks, bye. Like literally leaves his hotel room and doesn't speak to him. And so
Right,
then she's like sad and depressed, and she has the heart to heart with both her aunts and her dad where they
right.
talk about it. And she's like, I'm gonna go get him. And Sophie shows up and says, hey, well, I'm here to take you to Roulem because Michelle's about to abdicate for you. And she's like, what?
Right.
No. So she gets on a private jet, sidebar for the moment about a private jet being really fancy.
Yes.
Yes, we're
She
aware.
doesn't
Thank
have a
you.
passport even.
I'm like,
Like
you really
no
do need
current
a
passport.
passport. Like, you need clothes and a passport. Like, there are things. I felt like that. And then we like jump to Roulem. I
Right.
feel like that scene in the throne room. So Michelle has finally gotten time with his dad. He's like, I'm going to abdicate. And Emma just shows up and is like, hi, I'm his fiance. I feel like that was not done well.
I agree. I think,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I feel like I understand. I mean, like it's like we were talking about, like, what did you expect? What did you not expect with this book? Like, of course, like, he's gonna propose, things aren't gonna go well. Then there
Yes.
has to be like some like, big gesture at the end. So like I kind of figured like the abdicating thing is not super surprising, but yeah, I feel
No,
like
it's
the kind of
literally that
resolution of that,
scene. It just,
yeah,
it was like,
the
am I don't mind if you look at like the bullet points of what happened.
right.
Am I mad about it? No, I think that's exactly what you should happen. But the execution of that scene, literally the writing of it, felt so disjointed to me and odd.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And
Right?
yeah,
Like,
I was, yeah, I feel like maybe she's like trying to kind of like, I don't know, put her spin on like
or
this
like have a little
very,
bit more
very,
tension,
yeah.
but it
Because
just
I just,
felt odd.
yeah, like leading up to it, because like, Michelle goes back to Rulem,
Roulem.
and then he's like trying to get time with his dad, and then like
Mm-hmm.
Sophie and was it
Marion,
Gabrielle's sister? Yeah, what's her name?
Marion, I
Marion?
think.
Something like
Who
that.
was the minute they talked about her, I was like, oh, she's gonna fuck everything up.
Yes, of course. Yeah, because oh yeah, okay. Anyway,
Doesn't matter.
but they were like, preventing him from like having the
Yeah.
conversation with his dad because they knew like Gabrielle was going to go get Emma and like bring him back. I'm
Mm-hmm.
also curious like how much time lapsed. Because I
I
assume
think it's
he
just a
took a
couple
private jet too.
days.
Right.
Just a couple days. Like, I don't know. It felt like, shouldn't you have more conversations with each other? But yeah, so he's in the throne room, and then Emma shows up and is like, hey, I'm your fiance. And his dad is like,
Right.
I'm so sorry. What? And
Right.
Michelle's just like, hi, Emma. Wow. And his dad is like, hey, can we talk about this? He's like, I need to go talk to her for an hour. I'm like, dude, you just like, and then they ghost his dad to
Right.
go into their room, and he's like, can we fuck? And she's like, no.
Oh
Like,
my gosh.
no. Like, and he's like, you're
It's
right. An
so
hour wouldn't
true.
be enough. Like, what?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
But I agree. That was the whole throne room scene, and then like the aftermath of them reconciling. I
Yeah.
agree. It unexpected, maybe. I don't know.
It it just it didn't stick the landing for me.
Yeah,
It's like, so the last season of Game of Thrones, like, is arguably like a terrible experience. But if you'd asked me, like, if you'd written a bullet point of plot points I would have been like, yeah, that's exactly what should happen. And then you watch the season and you're like, oh, that was done so bad. I don't get that. Like it it felt almost because there was so much action one right after the other. Like I wish we'd gotten those moments to breathe in their heads a little bit more
Hmm.
versus like we have to go now, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. I wanted the moment to breathe and be. I almost wish that he'd been waiting in the throne room for his dad and then Emma shows up and they have a
Hmm.
reconciliation and then his
Yep.
dad arrives like, what are you here to talk to me about? And like it seems so serious and instead it was joyful.
Hmm.
That would have made I think it was like them having this moment in front of his dad was just so
Right.
off for me. So if it
Yeah.
happened kind of the opposite way, but does it make me dislike the book? No. No.
Agree.
I just think that it, and I'm noticing this a lot, especially with I'm reading a lot more debut authors or new to trad things, people who
Hmm.
are moving into a different sphere, and I'm noticing these like, well, you just didn't stick that landing. Like that ending felt rushed. Like this book, I think only needed like five to 10 more pages. I've read books where I'm like, could we have 30 more pages, please? Like, can we flesh this out?
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think the other things that come to mind with just kind of like the ending, like one, I thought it was funny that she's just like, oh, my dad's coming to live with us in Rulem, which I thought was funny. Cause
That
like,
was
I guess,
always going to happen.
right, right, right. But then the other thing that I thought was interesting, so obviously, like, she like has this dream of like opening a
Hmm.
commercial kitchen space and like doing like teaching these classes on
Yeah,
royal court cuisine. And then at the end, she's like, well, it's not really the cooking that I like. It's like taking care of people that I like. And so that's how I'm going to transition to like being a princess and then a queen. Cause like,
right.
I don't really need to cook. It's this other stuff that I like, which that kind of rubbed me the wrong way. I was just like, okay, so we're just kind of giving up on your dream, like to just do this, which I get, but I think it was kind of maybe the author's way of like making the fact that she's like, uprooting her life for
Yeah,
love and like moving to this new
right.
country, like just like a softer landing. But I just was kind of like, oh, so you just don't want to do that anymore.
It's look, to put it into real life, like there was no fucking way that Meghan Markle was going to stay an actress when you're a fucking princess. Like it's a job. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
you don't get to have a job and be a princess or the first lady or any of those things. Your job is
Hmm.
politics, and I get
Yeah.
that. And I do kind of wish that instead it had been like, you're right, like a stepping into like I acknowledge that I'm giving up on my dream, but it's to build the life with the partner that I want.
Right.
And that is more important to me than this dream. Or maybe I or whatever it was. I mean, she's been taking care of her dad since her mom left, and there's
Hmm.
some unhealthy coping mechanisms going on there. But like you're right. And I think that it's fine to say, look, this dream that I had is no longer going to
Right.
work once I find a partner and we're building a life together and their job is a lot more rigid in need than mine.
Right.
That is a conversation that you have and I think is important to it would have been nice to see the more honest version of that conversation rather than like maybe I don't need to cook for everyone of like I'll find the
Right.
joy in cooking by making us meals at the palace and by continuing to nourish my husband and keeping this thing even if I'm not teaching others like I'll bring royal court cuisine to the palace so that my culture is integrated into this. There are a lot of ways that it could have been
Right.
done
Yeah.
versus
And it's
rather than just like by dream.
right. And I especially feel like because I really enjoyed this scene where they like went on their date and had their picnic and she like, cooked
Yeah.
for him and like he was trying all the different like, meals and whatnot. And
Right?
so, Yeah, I just feel like I loved that, and then it like I agree. I just feel like maybe having an honest conversation about it because of course, like you are a princess or you are not a princess, and you can have a job or your job is being a princess. But I
Yes.
just, yeah, I felt like I don't know. Yeah, I feel like they just didn't have a real
Hmm.
conversation about it, like you said, and so I
Yeah.
would have appreciated something more there, I guess.
Y- Yeah, exactly. Can we talk about the sexual longing and then the spice of this book? Because I have to
Absolutely.
say, like, it is a clumsy slow burn. And I say clumsy slow burn because there are multiple attempts at consummating this relationship that are thwarted,
Yes.
but there is such like deep yearning of the body for each other in a way that I like. I, that just made me want to go, just fuck already. Like, oh my God, if you get thwarted one more time, I like this might as well be YA. Like,
Yeah, I feel like one of the first things that I noted, and I feel like it's pretty early on in the book too. Like
hmm.
he's like, I think trying to convince her to go on a date or whatever, and he's just like, I am at your mercy, like immediately. It's just like,
Oh my God, I
I really want to
highlighted
do this
that.
thing.
Yes. There's a
It's
lot
so
that
famous.
happens before the spice. There's like,
I
again,
know.
slow burn.
Yes. So page 123, I did write that down this time. He just like he's like walking her to her car, I think
Yeah.
after
Yes.
and it's
After
so
the
he's
makeout
like,
session in the alley, I think.
yeah, I think so. Yeah. And so he's like, Michael shortened his stride, or sorry, Michael, Michelle. Michelle shortened his stride to match hers and to make their walk last as long as possible. And I just was like, the man just wants to be in her presence, just wants to love on her. Give the man a break.
He's so besotted. Like they're just oh, also like she does have weird reactions to things. Like on the next page, 125, when he talks
Hmm.
about her background check, she goes, "So does that mean she knows my life story?" She stopped walking and withdrew her hand from his arm. Emma, please, his stomach sinking, he reached for her hand, but stopped himself. That's so cool. She turned to face him, wearing a wide grin. And I was like, you're not wrong. It's like, wow, I'm worthy of an FBI file, like everyone has one. But like, it was such an odd response to me.
Yeah, I
Like,
feel like, and I feel like that extends to like when she finds out he has a personal security guard, when she finds out he's a prince. Her just
yes.
reactions are just not like what I would expect, I guess.
Oh, again, the next page, 127. May I kiss you goodnight, Emma? She looked lovely, illuminated by the warm light of the street lamp, and he tucked her hair behind her ear. But isn't Sophie watching? She caught the bottom of her lip in her teeth. I don't care. He gently freed her lip with a pat of his thumb. The whole damn street can watch if it means I can taste you again. Like they want each other so bad. It's so funny.
Hmm. Well, and then when they eventually do have
Consummate?
sex,
Yes.
um, you find out that she's like had one partner in college and that's it.
Yes. Also, I'm not gonna lie. Oh, here's my line 215. If they get interrupted, I will scream.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Because so sometimes with really sweet, adorable rom-coms, you
Hmm.
get sweet, adorable, basically closed door sex scenes.
Sure. Yeah.
And I was slightly concerned with how long we were waiting to get to this part. Like, it could be very sweet and closed doorish, and then I will be upset. But also with the explicit nature of their yearning, I was like, there's no way. There's no way that we're not going to get explicit.
Yes.
And I will say that I was pleasantly surprised with the smut.
Hmm.
I thought it was well done. I mean, you've got an orgasm ratio of 3 to 1. I think that's great.
True. Very true. Yes.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I agree. I think after all the like insta love, pining, yearning, like I'm down bad, let's get married right now, I would have been upset as well.
I
It's
would have been
not
so upset.
open door scene. So yeah, I also was like, I don't want to say pleasantly surprised, but like I was happy with, what I read and like,
Right?
yeah, I agree. Like it wasn't like, because I do agree. Like when you think about, I don't know, like Secret Prince,
Mm-hmm.
inexperienced, like female main character, I wasn't sure what to expect. And then,
Yeah.
yeah, it was hot. I loved it.
It was hot. It was, I thought, like, good job, sir, for doing like lots of different things to
Yep.
like get her off, to do all of these, to like get it going. I like that he asks about like, what does she want? What is okay?
Hmm.
There's a lot of good check in. And then, yeah, so that's like a couple, like a lovely couple pages. Like, this was a decent length sex scene. Like, it was a good, like, uh, 8, 10 pages.
Hmm.
I'm
Yeah.
like, good for you
And I like
from
that
start to
we
finish.
obviously get both like points of view too. So like
Yes,
switches in
I
the
do like
middle.
that.
Yeah.
Oh, but this is when I was like, you're an idiot, but at least you know you're an idiot. This is the moment we were talking about. He was halfway asleep when his eyes shot open and his skin still damp from the shower. Also, he is obsessed with showering right after sex. She doesn't get up to pee, but he has to
I
shower. I was
know.
like,
I
dude,
noticed that too.
sexual health, it should be the other way around. Like, she should be getting up to pee. You don't need to shower. Don't you want to like
Yeah.
keep the musk on a little bit longer? But so he got up and showered, came back, still damp from the shower, chilled with sudden realization. He hadn't told her. No shit, Sherlock. You were going to tell her something and then you let her just get your rocks off. Well, get her rocks off twice and then your rocks off. He crossed the line he'd vowed not to cross until he told her the truth about his identity. It was a betrayal of her trust. And my note was, he gets it. Like, he gets that it's a betrayal of her trust.
Hmm.
And then he gets dressed and he just stares at her. And then he just
Just
stares at her.
stares at her. Yes. Until she wakes up.
She's like,
Oh. And of
ugh.
course they have to move off the bed and sit elsewhere
Yeah,
to
he's
have
like,
their
I can't have this conversation
conversation.
with you on a bed. I'm like, dude, calm the fuck down. I do appreciate that as we're talking about the whole princess and moving to Europe thing, they
Hmm.
don't shy away from maybe not hitting it really hard because this is taking place in America and it has its own set of problems, but they do acknowledge the fact that she is not white and she would be moving to a country
Oh yeah.
that is predominantly white, a tiny little European nation, and that culturally and racially she's not what would have been expected of him.
Hmm.
Oddly enough, like, Michelle never mentions it, but the people around Emma acknowledges it, and people she has conversations with do acknowledge it. Wait, so when are they fucking?
Are you talking about like when they have their fight and then he comes over and they do
Oh,
the deed
yes,
up against the
yes.
wall?
He fucks her against the wall, and this is it. Oh, so hold on. He barely finished zipping up his pants when her knees buckled, and he scooped her up in his arms and strode over to a sitting area beneath a small pergola. And my note is, just have to mention the cum dripping out of her. Like, I have to mention that. Like you're about to like sit down and have a conversation. Like, you fucked without a condom. It's fine. No worries. Like, you do you, boo. You can't ignore that. Like, it's it's there. It's happening. It's all over everybody's business. Like, and you have a conversation with your father after this, like in the kitchen, like you make him food. And I just was thinking to myself, like, I, you didn't clean up anything. Like you sat
No
down, like
cleaning.
it's probably
Mhm.
on your, like you sat on your nightgown. Like what is happening?
And she purposely like left her underwear upstairs as well.
Yes. Like there's no barrier between your orifice and whatever's coming out of you and like the world. And I don't mind that. Like you can, you don't want to, you want to fuck without a condom, but like just there are some practical life lessons that I feel like people miss out on. And if you've never fucked without a condom and you think you could, oh, there was some book, I think it was Her Night at the Museum. Did you end up reading that by Bryn
I haven't
Donovan?
read that yet. Not yet.
So they fuck without a condom, and then they have this like big heart to heart where she's sitting on the couch. And I'm like, dude, no, you can't sit on the couch. You, like, you cannot put your body there. Or in when we did the book club with Devin and they fuck in the hot tub area, and then they're like, oh, great, the sex was awesome. And then they snuggle in the hot tub. And I was like, there's cum dripping out of her into that hot tub that your family uses, sir. Your family uses that hot spring. Like you just
Oh my gosh, that's too funny.
it's I am I the only person who thinks about this?
No, no, you're not the only one who thinks about this. I think, yeah, and the whole like we talked about before, like how he always is getting up to shower and she never gets up to do anything after they have sex. And I'm
Yeah.
just like, it's not practical. That's not how it should be.
No.
But I think I just am like, I guess I'm just gonna suspend my disbelief at this point because
It's just is what it is.
just how
Oddly,
it
That's how
I
is.
you
have a
get
harder time.
UTIs.
Thank you.
Exactly. I know.
No, like put the bimbop down, go pee, make sure everything's like healthy and safe down there. In like more realistic contemporary romance, I have a harder time suspending my disbelief. Like when
Sure.
we're in
Yeah.
fantasy, when we're in dark romance, when we're something where I'm like, you know what, I just can't hold it up to the standards of normal humans. But this one, like, you're gonna get a UTI, and that's gonna be bad news bears, my friend. Like, someone's getting a yeast infection. No one's gonna enjoy that. Um, and then Sophie's like so fucking mad at him. He calls her, don't bother, I'm parked in front of Emma's house
Oh yes.
because he
Because yeah, he
snuck out
snuck
of the
out.
hotel.
Yeah.
And she's like, you idiot. Of course I knew where you were. How dare you? I'm mad.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Sophie's the best.
Sophie is the best. And I like continuing with that, like Sophie being a really good example of what people need to hear in a conversation that she has with Michelle when they're in Roulem is, you shouldn't have left her. You should have asked her what she wanted. And Michelle says, well, you were always going to be my bodyguard. That's what you trained to be. And she goes, I would have left it all behind for Gabrielle. Like if
Mm-hmm.
he'd asked me, I would have left.
Yeah.
Which I think showed the importance of not assuming you know what someone wants out of their life or what importance people place on certain things in their life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I feel like, I mean, we always, not we, but the larger we, I feel like the like miscommunication trope in romance, like people like love to hate on it. Um, and I think that this is, I don't know, I feel like it's kind of directly like responding to that because I think it is true. Like, just like have a conversation, like lay your cards on the table and like give
Yes.
people, a choice. Or just like talk it out. So I feel like that was definitely, prevalent in
This
this
was
story.
talk it out needs to happen. I think miscommunication, there are two different things. There's like not communicating properly, and
Sure.
then there's like miscommunication or the lying. And this one felt less like a miscommunication trope to me than
Mhm.
a just sit down, have the fucking conversation, as you said.
Fair point.
Is this the first book of hers that you've read?
It is. Yeah. I've like have heard of her. I've like heard of other books, but I hadn't
Hmm.
read anything of hers prior. So this is my first one.
Yeah. She has one in my brain. She has one about don't. Oh no, Booked on a Feeling is the one that I feel like I see the most, but I haven't read it yet. And I don't know if I saw her on a panel or not, but I really want it, I was just on a kick because of Justinian Huang and Mia Tsai and those. I was looking for more fantasy that was inspired by Asian lore and not Eurocentric
Hmm.
lore because she has Nine-Tailed. This is what I went to her table to get.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, which is by a different publisher than this, I think. Unless it's just all under the same one, quite honestly, who the fuck knows. But I was really interested in this and saw the pink sprayed edges and went, well, I think you're coming home with me. What are your so I feel like we've covered the plot, we've covered the things we like, we covered the things we didn't,
Hmm.
we covered the smut, we covered the lack of smut and the slow burn, the stupid need to shower afterwards. That one's gonna get me. I'm like, that one got me.
We listen and we don't judge, Jace. Okay.
If this were a real person, we listen and we don't judge. Like you can have whatever feelings you want, but it was just odd to me that it was the dude, that it was Michelle and not Emma.
I
Like I can
agree
imagine like, oh, gotta
wholeheartedly.
gotta take care of business. But we listen, you're right, we listen and we don't judge. What are any last thoughts on this book?
Yes. So I guess I mean I did really enjoy it. I mean once again, like give me Secret Prince anytime, all the
Yes.
time, and I'm here for
Yes.
it. So no notes on the Secret Prince. But the one thing I wanted to mention is
Yeah.
I think it was when they were at the last bookstore in LA, which
Mm-hmm.
I have been to and I enjoyed. They were
Ah,
like doing the thing where like she was like sitting on his lap, like he like
yeah.
took her to the cookbook section, but like covered her eyes and she like picked one and she was like so like enthralled with her cookbook that she like wasn't paying attention and she ends up on his lap. And then his like legs fall asleep and he has to like shift her. And then they did the thing where she's like, oh, like lick your finger and tap your nose. I was like, I gotta try that when I have like pins and needles in my legs. I had never like
I've never heard of that
read
either,
it
and
or
I honestly had forgotten about it until this moment.
I read it and I was like, what? And so I put a note down and I was like, I'm gonna have to try that someday.
You're gonna have to let me know if that works.
I will because I'm
See,
like, what? So
I feel like
not
I get
really
pins and
related.
needles all the time. I sit in really weird
Yeah.
positions.
Same. And
Which
like when there's a cat on my lap, I like need to adjust. So I'm like, I'm gonna try that. So stay tuned. I'll follow
stay
up.
tuned. Let me know. Let me know on Thursday if you can tap your nose and do the thing. Oh my gosh. I'm
So
gonna see
hey,
you.
maybe I learned something
I'm
from
gonna
this
see
book.
you so
Well,
much
it's
this month.
gonna be sick.
Never. Never. Um, thank you so much, Caitlin, for being voluntold to read this book with me.
You're so welcome.
It was
Thank
a
you.
blast. And for being my book friend, for being if you ever want to go shopping and have restraint, don't go book shopping with Caitlin. We
Yeah,
actually egg each other on, and we have had people notice we're terrible.
I'm all about enabling when it's book related.
Yeah. We're like, oh, that book looks so great. You should get it. No, you should definitely get it. You should definitely, that looks so interesting. Tell me more about it. It should go in your pile. And we walk out with
Mhm.
like massive amounts of books.
Yes. Thanks.
Thank you so much for joining me, everyone. I hope that you enjoyed The Prince's Mine. If you have read anything else by Jayci Lee, Books on a Feeling, or if you want to read Nine-Tailed with me, because that is apparently the only way to get me to read books nowadays, please let me know in the comments, in the show notes, on social media. Do you like people to follow you on social media and talk to you about book things? Or are you like,
You
no
know,
friend?
I mean, here's the thing. I have like a Bookstagram account that I don't use. And then I have my like regular account that's private. So
Yeah.
I think we can just leave it alone.
Kaylin, whenever I have a new guest, I typically remember and sometimes don't remember, thank you, Seffi, that I have 5 questions I ask them before they leave. The first question is, what is your favorite romance novel?
You know, I did preview these questions, and my first thought upon seeing this question was, how dare you?
Yeah,
Because
no one has
I
answered with one
cannot.
book. It's fine.
That's what I mean. Like, I don't
No
even
one.
think I could give you like a top 10, let alone like a top five or three. Like, I would just keep going. But I did think about it in preparation for this question. And so I am going to name a few.
Great.
So, Savor It by Tara DeWitt is definitely one of my all time favorites. I've read it a few times and it just gives me all the feelings. It's small town, it's like friends to lovers. It's just, there's a goose. Like, it doesn't get any better than that. Yeah, I know. You should read it. It's great.
I think I
Um,
tried Funny Feeling and I started it and I was like, ooh, I don't know if I like these vibes.
it's very emotional. Like, I cried. So, it definitely you have to be like in the mood to like cry, I think. But like good tears, I think.
Okay.
And then I guess the second one that came to mind was You with a View by Jessica Joyce. Road trip, rivals to lovers, high school, like rivals. It's just great. So very good. I love that one. And then I cannot stop thinking about Curvy Girl Summer by Danielle
Uh-huh.
Allen.
Uh-huh.
I just like, I know we talked about it when I was listening to the audiobook because it like
Mm-hmm.
literally opens with a bang and it just like is
Yeah.
wonderful. And once again, like friends to lovers, like I just, it's my catnip. So, yeah, those are going to be the three I mentioned.
I think those are great. I cannot wait. The next one in the Curvy Girl Summer series comes out in June,
I
I
think
think.
so. Plus size
I think.
Claire.
Yeah.
Can't wait. So
I've
excited.
already I've already pre-ordered it.
Same, same.
Um, now I'm gonna fucking forget all the things. Where/how do you prefer to read?
Okay, so honestly, I will read anywhere and everywhere. But if we're talking about where I do most of my reading, which is at home, I mean, either on the couch or like in bed. There's nothing like just like lounging in bed all day and reading a book. So I would say that's probably my preferred place to read. And then, as I think you know, like I I mean, I love physical books, obviously. I love buying them. I love reading them. That's my preferred method. And also too, like I love a mass market paperback in particular,
Oh my gosh.
which is there's nothing
There's
better. And
nothing like it.
Savor It is being released in mass market paperback in April, and I'm gonna just buy them all and give them away as gifts because I just love it so much.
There's nothing like a
Yeah.
mass market paperback in your hands.
Truly. It's my
Yeah.
absolute favorite thing. But then, of course, like I read ebooks. I love audiobooks. Like the convenience of ebooks and audiobooks is like,
Mm-hmm.
it's unmatched. And I've been doing more and more audio recently, which I never thought I'd say. So I'm kind of like equal opportunity when it comes to where and how.
You do a really good job in a way that I have not mastered the skill to do this, but you are able to flip between reading and audio. And I typically,
Mm,
if I start in one medium, I have to stay there.
okay. Yeah, I do go back and forth and
I
sometimes
think
do
it's a
them at the same
skill.
time.
No, I read too fast to listen to the audiobook and I can't follow. It's just let me go with I haven't built that skill yet.
That's okay.
Okay. So here at Jayci Reads Romance, we have this concept called comfy sexy, and it is the belief that in your comfiest, safest space, you can also explore your sexuality by reading a romance novel. But what does the phrase comfy sexy evoke for you?
So comfy, sexy for me. I think the first thing that I think of is once again, like I will read anywhere and everywhere. And I think like reading romance in public is like wonderful. I think just like being in your own little world, like, I feel like you've posted several like reels and stuff about like reading. It's just like you're reading a smut scene. It's like just you just keep that straight look on your face. I think like that, like I love romance, and I think just like I'm comfortable reading it anywhere.
Hmm.
So I think that is one thing I think of. And then once again, I love reading in bed, and I think there's nothing better than like you have like your, made bed with your crisp sheets, and you're wearing something comfy, and you just like slide in there and then just get to like, lounge around and read. So that's comfy sexy to me.
I love it. So, following up with that, when do you feel your sexiest?
Ooh. Okay. So I would say, honestly, the first thing that comes to mind is like matching underwear sets, like underneath your
Yeah.
clothes.
Yeah.
So it just, I don't know, just like gives you a little something extra. And then I think also like honestly, like kind of cliche, but my mind goes to just like clothing and like dressing up. And I think for
Yeah.
me, I mean, hey, you've seen me in real life. Like I'm always comfy, like always. Like I don't dress up, I don't like do anything. So when I do like go to some event and like I put on like a fancy dress and like tights or nylons and like nice shoes and I do my makeup and even like shapewear, like I feel like that is like what, makes me feel sexy because I don't do it that often.
Like, I've seen you in
Um,
sequins.
have you?
Yeah. You
Oh,
wore
like
sequins
at
to stimulate.
Oh, you're right. You're so right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So like I don't do that very often. So I still think for me, like when I get to dress up, like that's when I feel sexy. And then also the matching underwear thing.
There's nothing like when the carpet matches the drapes
There you go.
in a different way. Like, I know that's not how that phrase goes, but I think fuck that phrase. Um, so we talked a lot about the sex in this book and how it's made and shown and portrayed and general sexual health. Please pee after sex. That's my last thing. Please pee after sex. But if there's one thing that you could let women know about sex and sexuality, you might call it your soapbox thing, what would it be?
Okay. Um, I guess so. I don't know if we've spoken about this, but like I grew up Catholic, like going to church every weekend, sang in choir, mom sang in choir, went to Catholic school for grade school, high school, and college. So, like, yeah, I see your face. So, like, I mean, what did I learn? I learned abstinence and I learned, okay, you have sex when you get married and then you have sex to have kids. So, like, who cares about anything but procreating? So, growing up, like, didn't really have conversations about this. And so I think, like, as an adult and as someone who I'm like a very like curious and nosy person. I don't know if you know this about me. And I also like have very much like an analytical mind. So like for me, I just want to know everything. And so I just was like, I'm gonna like explore. I want to do research. I want to like I guess I don't know, like self educate myself. And so obviously the internet is a wonderful place with many resources, but I also think like I love like what you're doing here because I do think romance novels are a great way to explore sex and sexuality. And so I guess like that's the first thing I want to say is just I think it's totally normal to explore and like find out what you like and what you don't like. And I think the other piece of this is like, I still like, I'm sure there's lots I don't know. And like, that's okay too. Like, it's a spectrum. So, I think really like that's something I want to just point out, like, keep exploring, keep learning, keep trying, but then also like, know, like, it's okay not to know everything. Um, and then I guess the other thing I just want to say too is like, people like what they like and who cares? Like, I think like, I don't love the phrase like I'm not gonna like yuck someone else's yum, but like that's I guess what I'm getting at, right? Like
Yeah.
I think, feel comfortable liking what you like because once again, like Catholicism, it's all about shame, it's all about taboo. So I think like what you like, be comfortable in that, find a partner who you feel comfortable sharing that and expressing that with. So yeah, those are I guess the few things that I'd like to comment on.
Yeah. I think that's great. And I hope everyone listening like take it to heart. Those are important things that you explore and that it's ever evolving and the understanding that it's okay not to know everything and it's okay not to like everything. Like with
Exactly.
food. try all the foods, know about all the foods, and it's okay if you put something in your mouth and you don't like it. It's all right. You can just,
Perfect.
never try it again. Thank you so much, Caitlin, for coming, for real. Thank you so much for staying up late with me, for reading with me, for being my real book friend, for being my book buddy enabler. I'm not going to lie, probably about a good 25% of the books on this shelf are because of Caitlin, who just went, yeah, sure, just get it. Just get it. Why not?
Just
It's
buy
right
it.
here.
Just buy
It's
it.
right here. You might never see this book again.
It's true. You just never know.
You
Okay?
never
You just
know.
never know.
You just honestly never know. And everybody needs a friend like that. Everyone needs a friend like that. So thank you for being mine. Have a wonderful evening, day, year, whenever y'all read it. Go read That Prince Is Mine by Jayci Lee. Every single time I say the title, I think of The Boy Is
Boy is
Mine.
mine. Yes.
Yes,
I'm
100%.
sorry that you.
Seem to be confused. Yes, I'm going to link that song in the show notes because that is worth it. And that music video is worth it. Have an amazing rest of your night, your weekend. Happy Valentine's Day, I think is when we're releasing this. Michael, you might keep that in, you might not keep it in. But if you celebrate, if you don't, because Valentine's Day is fucking weird. And I'll let you know what I'm gonna read next. Bye. Jayci Reads Romance is a 3 Paws Productions podcast. Produced by Seffi, edited by Michael Achenbach. Our theme song is written and performed by Diana Weishauer. For show notes and more, head to www.jaycereadsromance.com. That's JAYCE Reads Romance. Follow us on socials at Jayci Reads Romance everywhere. For more exclusive content, visit us on Substack, where you'll find extended episodes, bonus episodes, and more. Have a question, story, or a book recommendation you know I'll love? Email Jace at jacereadsromance.com or call and leave a voicemail at 661-JACE-RR. That's 661-529-2377. Remember to rate, review, and subscribe wherever you're listening to this podcast. And as always, this is Jace, holding space for you.